I feel like I should start this within the news, but I have been talking recently about the Elliot Lake Transit. I live in Elliot Lake, which is in Northern Ontario, and on our last, it's called the Standard Extra, and it was also in Elliot Lake today, there was an article about the buses. It was first printed back in February. It was redone again in March of this year, and they put it in the paper here. So it explains a little bit about the money and how things are being done. It does raise some more questions for me too, because I'd like to understand it fully. But anyways, it says here in the story, Elliot Lake will be getting 3 new standard fleet buses to replace the existing ones that are nearing the end of their service life. We have a vendor that has offered a competitive price on 3 buses that are a similar make to the ones that we currently have in service, which we're very happy with because of parts availability and general dependability, especially compared to previous units that we've had in service in the past, said Acting Director of Public Works, Bill Goulding, at the February 27th council meeting. The 3 transit buses, which each cost $146,500, okay, plus applicable taxes and fees, you can't get away from that one, are in stock and will be delivered this summer. Funding for the purchases will come from vehicle reserves as well as anticipated government funding. Goulding added, the intent is to retain 1 of 3 that will be bringing out of service to go into semi-service to make up for anticipated breakdowns that happen when a bus has to go out of service. He said keeping an extra bus will ensure continued service of the transit system while taking a financial burden off of the city operationally if they don't have to depend on rental services when there are breakdowns. Because the units that we're purchasing are the same make and model, there's opportunities for part sharing and some operational efficiencies by maintaining a consistent fleet. And there's also the opportunity to do some load balancing where we can average the use between the 4 units rather than just pressing the 3 into service, said Goulding. The acting Public Works Director could not say when the units were supposed to be replaced, but that they have been used for more than their anticipated time. My understanding is that when these units were put into place, they were originally budgeted for use 6 days a week service. And what the transit staff found was that they were dependable enough and just generally better to use than the previous fleet, that they felt comfortable moving to a 7-day-week service schedule, which accelerated the use of the units considerably, Goulding said. The old vehicles will be sold on auction websites dedicated to government surplus. My one question, and I was discussing this with Mike the other day, my friend Mike, who is also very active with accessibility and has been forever. Why can't those units, I know the object is to make back as much cash as you possibly can. I understand that. But in a town such as ours, with as many disabled people as we do have, first, why aren't we thinking about putting a sort of an intermediate Handilift bus in there? If there is this necessary level of disability that you have to have in order to use the current Handilift service, then why not have a more intermediate or beginner level disability service where people within a unit, like at the apartment buildings or whatever, or you could even still do it at each individual's home to take them shopping, that kind of thing, but you limit the service to say 3 days a week. And give that opportunity to people who are less disabled than other people. Okay, there's that. And you keep another bus able to switch parts out and do different odd things with. Okay. The other thing you could do, though, is, and this is kind of a twofer. We have adult education here, and at the schools, the high school, they have this too. So an automotive shop. Okay. And why not, as a project for the schools, give them these two buses to have them turn them around and make them functional RV van life vehicles for disabled people in Elliot Lake that they could sell for a much lower price, give people the ability to get out and about to different town functions, to be able to go and do their own shopping, to, if they need to, because of the constraints of living on a disability budget, they could perhaps live in them, and the things that would entail. But giving both a hand up in learning new things, in gaining new skills, in being able to live more comfortably, more independently, and for an amount of money that is affordable to them. So that's what I would want to know for that one. And other than that, are we paying this? It says the money that we hope to get is this. So this is new money. This is not the money that they were talking about in those other references. Those are the things that I'd like to know about that, but that's enough. And this is my sort of summing up of the Elliot Lake Transit. I subscribe regularly to online emails and organizations, stuff like that, including Rick Hansen, the Ministry of Seniors, the Ministry of for Accessibility, and there's a whole lot of different names for it, and several other different ones. And I get mail from them all the time telling me about programs and funding and all the rest of that stuff that's coming on. And one of the newest ones that I got was the other day, and it talks about the 2022-23 Enabling Change Program projects. And this is a program that provides funding for not-for-profit industry organizations and professional associations to educate their stakeholders and members about accessibility, drive cultural awareness about the value and benefits of accessibility, and support regulatory compliance. It's so important to me that companies, organizations, municipalities understand that the disabled community is a valuable resource. It's a valuable source of income if they decide to recognize us, make accommodations for us, and market to us. Okay. So, further it says in here, the 2022-23 projects focus on creating equitable opportunities in the labor market, driving a culture of respect and dignity for people with disabilities, and supporting awareness and regulatory compliance with the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act 2005, the AODA. It sounds odd, but 2005 is when it was written, and it just gets updated, and so, they go from there. So, a couple of the projects which are interesting, and people take note. The Ontario Tourism Education Corporation, for its Reimagine to Succeed, bringing diversity to tourism and hospitality. The Retail Council of Canada, enabling change for retailers, creating an inclusive culture within the retail store. The Breaking Down Barriers Independent Living Center for Start the Conversation AODA 2025. And that's going to have to deal with 2025 was when the AODA originally set out that Ontario was going to be barrier-free. Okay, by that time. it was a very lofty goal, and it isn't going to happen. But now you've got to take a look and say, okay, where do we go from here? How do we make it better? How do we feed off of what we've started and not just keep giving, like okay, so let's say you have an event every year, one particular thing. All right, so the following year you want to take that event and you want to either give something off of it or make it a little bit bigger, make it a little bit better, give it a little bit more oomph, right? You don't want to keep having the event, having the event, having the event, having the event, because that's this. We want to go like this. That's not a bad thought either. The Peel Career Assessment Inc. for Ability Works project. The Algonquin and Lakeshore Catholic District School Board for Enabling Change in Algonquin and Lakeshore Catholic District School Board. And believe it or not, the Canadian National Institute for the Blind for its CNIB Kids Inclusive and Accessible Education in Ontario. The Carasaga Festival for its accessibility at the festival, celebrating inclusion and diversity. Now, one of the things, when you want to attend any sort of a festival as a disabled person, you really need to suss out what's going to be going on there. Will they have accessible bathrooms? Number two, will they give you accommodation for, like, are they wheelchair accessible? Are they walker accessible? Do they have facilities for hearing impairment? Any of those sorts of things, hearing impaired people. So all of those kinds of things are really quite important. So having a project that sort of takes a look at that and says, okay, well, we've got these things. What can we do to make them more accessible to everybody? That's a big deal. Good stuff. Works out fine for me, I think. Because I was involved in the planning of a birding festival. Okay, one of the first in our neck of the woods in northeastern Ontario. And accessibility was thought about, but it wasn't presented well as far as marketing to people with accessibilities. I myself think that it would go over really, really well. I think that we could really make a statement about it to bring people into Northern Ontario, which is a beautiful part of Ontario, let me tell you. And we have some great birds up here and some great birding locations, not necessarily all accessible, but enough you can do things like a driving safari, and you can stop and you can get out and take pictures and really get a good look at what's going on with the birds in their habitat. And you'll see foxes, snapping turtles, and deer, and what else did we have? Beaver. That was fun. Beaver was good, and so were the muskrats. Muskrats are funny. And skunks and porcupines. So yeah, all of those were enjoyable too. So I think that being able to have a festival that says to everybody, you are welcome, it would be a great idea. I forgot to add this one in. Okay. Paragolf Ontario. Driving towards inclusion. Changing attitudes and increasing opportunities for everybody in the sport of golf. How cool. Like, I mean, okay, on my best days with, like when I was 16, 17 years old, I could not hit a golf ball. There's just no way. I don't know how anybody does that, but people are crazy mad for this sport. And I think overall, everywhere, to have the ability to be able to get out on a golf course and like go for it, learn this sport, which would be a challenge. I would probably get down flat on the ground and shoot it like a pool ball and then have somebody help me stand back up again. But that, wow, that's a really cool project. I cannot wait to hear the results of all of that. Well, I think I'm going to leave it at that for now. My last video was really, really long, and I'm trying to do them so that they're going to be a little bit shorter and a little bit more interesting, I hope, than me just blathering on about the same thing ad infinitum. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope that there was some information that you could use, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I would love to hear them. I would love to respond to them, and any other comments that you might have about how I'm doing or what I'm doing. And I will look forward to talking to you again very, very soon. Thank you.